6 months ago, I applied for a live-in nanny position with the Harrison family. To the world, Richard and Victoria Harrison were royalty. He was a Wall Street wonderkind. She was a socialite dripping in couture, designer brands that, coincidentally, were all created by my grandfather 50 years ago. But they didn't know that. To them, I was just the help, the quiet girl from nowhere. I wore secondhand sweaters. I didn't wear makeup. I kept my head down. I let them see exactly what they wanted to see, nothing. Gremtritam, Brain, their daughter, Lily, was the only light in that cold house. 5 years old, innocent. She didn't care about designer labels or family names. She just wanted someone to read her stories. And honestly, she's the only reason I stayed as long as I did, but I had another reason for being there, a mission. My grandfather, the legendary Arthur Valmont, taught me one thing before he passed. Where trust is not given, it is observed. If you want to know a person's true heart, watch them when they think no one is looking. The Harrisons were desperately trying to secure a partnership with Valmont Industries. They wanted to merge their failing investment firm with our fashion empire. They sent proposal after proposal. They schmoozed our board members. They lied through their perfect teeth. My brother, who now runs the company, was suspicious. But we needed proof, so I volunteered. I went undercover, not as a spy with gadgets and weapons, just as a nanny, a ghost, and for 6 months I watched. Victoria Harrison had a special talent for cruelty. It was never loud. It was always wrapped in a smile. She'd compliment my unique style while her friends giggled. She'd ask me to fetch things from her closet, then lock the door accidentally, leaving me trapped for hours. I remember. One afternoon, she was on the phone with her mother. I was dusting the living room, within earshot, but she didn't care. She said loud enough for me to hear, "We, the new nanny, is such a relief. She's so plain I don't have to worry about Richard even looking at her. It's like hiring furniture." She laughed. I kept dusting, but I remembered Richard was a different kind of monster. He was charming, handsome, the kind of man who could look you in the eyes and lie without blinking. He'd come home late, reeking of expensive perfume and cheap whiskey, and Victoria would pretend not to notice. Their marriage was a stage play, and I had a front row seat, but Lily was real. She'd crawl into my bed during thunderstorms. She'd draw me pictures. She'd ask why her mommy never played with her. I'd hold her and say, "You mommy is busy, sweetheart." But I'm here, and I meant it. That little girl became the string that kept me tied to that house. Then everything changed. I overheard Richard on the phone one night. He was talking to someone about the Valmont deal. He was desperate. The Harrison accounts were empty. They were gambling everything on this merger. And then I heard the words that made my blood run cold. "You don't worry. I have a plan. B. I have something on the Valmont family, something that will force their hand." Donda, he was planning to blackmail my family. Using me? Using someone else? I didn't know, but I knew I had to move faster. A week later, the invitation arrived. The annual charity gala, the most exclusive event of the year. Every billionaire, every celebrity, every wannabe would be there. And this year, Valmont Industries was the title sponsor. Victoria was ecstatic. She spent $10,000 on a dress. She bragged to everyone who would listen that this was her night, the night they'd seal the deal with Valmont. She had no idea that the person who would be accepting her handshake was the girl ironing her dress. That night, after everyone was asleep, I opened my suitcase. Hidden beneath the false bottom was a dress. A custom Valmont original. My grandfather designed it for me on his deathbed. "For the night you stop hiding," he said. I ran my fingers over the fabric. The night was coming. The day of the gala was chaos. Hairstylists, makeup artists, florists. Victoria was a tornado of anxiety. And in the middle of it all, disaster struck. Her stylist called, canceled, flat tire. Victoria screamed loud enough to wake the neighbors. She ran through the house, looking for anyone who could help. And then she saw me, standing in the hallway, holding a stack of freshly folded towels. She stopped, looked me up and down, and snapped her fingers. "You, Nanny. What's your name again? Doesn't matter. You have small hands. You're good with details. Come help me lace my corset. And for God's sake, stay in the corner when the guests arrive. I don't want anyone to think I brought the help to the party." And I followed her. Of course I did. She led me to her dressing room, and for the next hour, I laced her into that gown. She talked at me, not to me, about how important she was, how this night would change everything, how she'd finally get a seat at the table with the Valmonts. Banned. She caught my reflection in the mirror and frowned. "You know," she said, tilting her head, "if you did something with your hair. Maybe wore some makeup." "No, never mind. Some people are just born forgettable, I suppose." She laughed. I smiled. I said, "Yes, ma'am. Some people are." They left at 2 p.m. The house was silent. I walked upstairs to my small room. I locked the door. And then I began. For 6 months, I had hidden. For 6 months, I had been invisible. But invisibility is a weapon. It lets you see things others try to hide. And tonight, I was done hiding. The dress was armor, my grandfather's last gift. The fabric felt like liquid night against my skin. I put on a single piece of jewelry, a thin silver necklace with a small V pendant Valmont. My name, my legacy. Man, I looked at the woman in the mirror. She wasn't the nanny anymore. She wasn't invisible. She was Elena Valmont. And she was ready. Munda's waiting at the end of the driveway was a car I had arranged weeks ago. Black, discreet, perfect. The driver, an old family employee, tipped his hat. "You Miss Valmont?" he said. I smiled. "You take me to the Gala, please. I have a meeting to attend." The hotel was glittering. I had seen it 100 times in magazines. But walking through those doors as myself, it was different. The air smelled different. The lights seemed brighter. I walked through the lobby. Heads turned. People whispered. I heard someone say, "Who is that?" Another voice. "I don't know, but that dress, that's Valmont. Has to be family." I kept walking. Let them wonder. The ballroom was overwhelming. Crystal chandeliers, flowers everywhere. A sea of black tuxedos and glittering gowns. And there, across the room, I saw them. The Harrisons. Damned. They were working the room like politicians. Victoria was touching everyone's arm, laughing too loud. Richard was shaking hands like he was running for office. They looked desperate. And desperate people are dangerous. And I spotted my brother near the stage. Marcus. He looked stressed, checking his watch. He didn't know I was coming. I had kept my mission a secret, even from him. I wanted proof. And I had it. Bandy I stood at the bar, partially hidden by a pillar. The Harrisons were close enough to hear. Victoria was gossiping with another socialite. And then I heard my name, my fake name. You know, Victoria said, swirling her champagne. "Your nanny is the most pathetic creature. I. She's been with us for 6 months, and I don't think she owns a single thing that isn't from a thrift store. I almost feel sorry for her, almost." The other woman laughed. "Where do you find these people?" Victoria shrugged. They're like mushrooms. They pop up in the dark." Dinda. I took a breath. I counted to 5. Then I set down my glass and walked toward the stage. I touched Marcus's arm. He turned, irritated, then froze. His eyes went wide. "Elena?" he whispered. "What are you? Why are you? Where have you been?" I squeezed his hand. "I'll explain later. But first, I need you to trust me. Give me the microphone." He hesitated. "He's my big brother. He spent his whole life protecting me." But he saw something in my eyes. The same fire our grandfather had, and he nodded. 5 minutes, he said. "Then I'm coming to find you." Marcus stepped on stage. The room quieted, the lights dimmed slightly, focusing on him. He gave the standard welcome speech, thanked the committee, thanked the charity. And then he said something that wasn't in the script. But before I introduce our keynote speaker, I want to take a moment to acknowledge someone special. Someone who embodies the Valmont spirit. Someone who has been watching and learning and waiting for the right moment. My sister, Elena Valmont, donned the gasp that went through that room. I'll remember it forever. Glasses stopped mid-air. Conversations died. And then every head in the room turned, looking for me. Victoria's champagne glass slipped from her fingers and shattered on the marble floor. I stepped out from behind the pillar. I walked forward. The crowd parted like the Red Sea. I didn't look at anyone. I walked straight toward the stage, straight toward the Harrisons. Victoria saw me. I watched the color drain from her face. She grabbed Richard's arm so hard he winced. I saw her lips form the word, "You Nanny?" Richard's face went from confusion to horror to rage in 3 seconds flat. I walked right past them, but I stopped, just for a second. I turned my head slightly so only they could see my profile. And I said just loud enough for them to hear, "The furniture speaks now." I stepped onto the stage. Marcus handed me the microphone and stepped back, a proud smile on his face. I looked out at the sea of faces, at the billionaires, at the celebrities, at the Harrisons, frozen in place like deer in headlights. "Good evening," I said. "For those of you who don't know me, I'm Elena Valmont. My grandfather founded Valmont Industries 50 years ago. He built this company on 3 things: quality, integrity, and respect." I looked directly at the Harrisons. "Respect," I repeated. "That's the important one. Respect for our craft, respect for our customers, and respect for every single person who helps us succeed. From our CEO, to our seamstresses, to our interns. Everyone matters." I saw Richard try to slip away, but Marcus had anticipated that. 2 security guards appeared at the exits. Richard was trapped. "Yet, over the past 6 months," I continued, holding up the USB drive, "I've had the unique opportunity to observe a family who desperately wanted to partner with us." The Harrisons, murmurs rippled through the crowd. I watched them. I lived with them. I saw how they treated the people they considered beneath them. I plugged the drive into the system. Images flashed on the screens around the room. Screenshots of Richard's emails, photos of him meeting with known fraudsters, a recording of Victoria laughing about how they'd fooled those Valmont idiots. The room erupted. Victoria screamed. Richard lunged toward the stage, but security was faster. They were escorted out, humiliated, destroyed. Their reputation, gone in 60 seconds. I watched them go. I didn't smile, I didn't cheer, I just felt peace. The truth was out, and they would never hurt anyone again. The gala ended. People approached me, of course, congratulated me, asked for interviews. I smiled, nodded, and slipped away. I needed air. I needed to breathe. Man, Marcus found me on the balcony. He didn't say anything at first, just handed me my coat and stood beside me, looking out at the city lights. "Pant, finally," he said. "Your grandfather would be proud." I felt tears prick my eyes. "You think so?" He nodded. You protected the company, you exposed the truth, and you did it with grace." That's exactly what he would have wanted. We stood there for a long time. Then my phone buzzed, a text from my lawyer. "It's done. The Harrisons are finished. And the custody papers for Lily are ready for your signature." You see, I had one more card to play. Richard Harrison had a brother, a good man, who died years ago. His will named Richard as Lily's guardian, but with a clause, if Richard was ever deemed unfit, custody would transfer to the brother's closest friend. Someone Richard didn't know about, someone he'd never suspect. Me, I had met Lily's father once, years ago. A brief encounter, but he remembered me. And before he died, he wrote a letter, naming me as Lily's guardian, if anything happened to Richard. The lawyers validated it tonight. I knelt down, and Lily ran into my arms. "I knew you'd come back," she whispered. I held her tight. "I'll always come back," I said. And I meant it. Yeah, it's been 3 months now. Lily and I live in a small house. Not a mansion. I sold the family estate. Too many memories. Too many ghosts. We have a garden, a dog. And every night, I read her a story before bed. Bond. They called me invisible. They called me ugly. They called me nothing. But I was never nothing. I was watching. I was learning. I was waiting. The Harrisons lost everything. Their money, their friends, their freedom. Richard is under federal investigation. Victoria is living with her mother in a small apartment. And me? I finally stopped hiding. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's just living well and making sure the people who hurt you know exactly who you are. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe for more tales of justice, karma, and the power of the underestimated. Click the bell for notification.